Hi everyone, thanks for watching this video today. My name is David, I'm a life coach, and I try to help people assist and heal, recover from trauma. Today's video is something that has been requested by many of you. Thank you. I've made other videos before about what's going on in the brain during trauma and narcissistic abuse. And a lot of you guys really like that, and you brought it up many times since then. I think I did that, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that. And I have a playlist titled Healing cptsd. Any guys interested in this topic, this subject, you're suffering from these kinds of things, I highly recommend you go check those videos out. There might be more answers in those videos as far as some of the things I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to totally dive into every little specific part, and I probably have in some of my other videos. If you guys could, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. And please vote up or down and let me know why. Let me know what's going on. Give me feedback. I love it. Ask lots of questions. I'll answer everyone's questions. Thank you very much for your support. So I wanted to make this video for you guys because those of you who are suffering from different kinds of stress disorders and prolonged trauma creates a lot of shame. If we don't understand trauma, and we don't understand trauma, it's too much for us, we internalize that, and it just causes a ton of shame, believing that we're bad people. So learning this stuff, and I hope that you guys finish this video and try and get as much as you can out of it. And that's why I encourage you to ask questions and go look up your research your own. I encourage that, and if I'm wrong in any of this, please correct me, please. I'm not a doctor, not a therapist, just a life coach, and I do research on this stuff to better help my clients to understand it more. So this isn't my opinion. This is out of a ton of research I've made over the years. I'm putting in a lot of the references in the description box if you guys are interested in where I got this information from. But what I'm hoping is that learning this and understanding some of this will really alleviate a lot of shame for you guys. I'm hoping it does that. Learning and understanding our traumas can do that. It's an essential part of healing. I really believe that. So let me get into it here. Prolonged trauma, it does change who we are. It causes damage to our brains, amongst many other problems. The prefrontal cortex is our thinking center, and our anterior cingulate cortex, also here in the frontal lobe, is our emotional regulation center. And our amygdala, a small little almond-shaped organ deep inside our brain, is our fear center. These are all damaged by prolonged trauma. A normal fear response to danger, to a threat, what happens is our autonomic nervous system, which is made up of our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system, kicks in for our response. The sympathetic triggers our amygdala, and it then sends signals to release stress chemicals, and it causes the fight or flight. It does all kinds of things, from making our muscles stronger, increasing blood flow, things like this. Then the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and it adds feel-good hormones to calm us. This is homeostasis, to balance, to bring us back to normal, okay? But today I'm talking about prolonged trauma. So prolonged trauma, and specifically our reactions to this over time, if we keep reacting to this, causes PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. In childhood, and I think a lot of this starts in childhood, I believe complex post-traumatic stress disorder is this not just prolonged, but repetitive. And I believe that a lot of you guys, and you know this if you watch my videos, a lot of you guys that suffer in these traumatic, abusive relationships in adulthood really mirrors and emulates parts of our childhood. There's something familiar going on there. And I believe that at the very least, people with these adult relationships have experienced neglect in childhood. And this can be extremely difficult to identify. I have many clients that have a hard time understanding this, and it takes a little time to show this to them to where they can finally see it. Because you'd be amazed at how many people think they had a great childhood when they did not. They were neglected of the very, very essential things we need. And that's abuse. So in childhood, this could start. Simply the baby sitting in their baby chair and mommy is over them and cooing and cawing. The child's cooing and cawing and may point at something and make a noise, and it's serve and return. The baby serves and the mom looks at it and goes back with an expression, and that's a return. And this child starts to learn what emotions are, places emotions, labels them as mom's expression of her face. These things are extremely important, and it calms the child, validates the child, things like this. Without it, major stress. Being neglected of the child's emotional needs causes major stress, and that is abuse. And so I can get into that later, but I know a lot of you guys have suffered from relationships, recent relationships, traumatic ones. And I want to get into exactly what's going on there. So stress, danger, fear stimulates our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands are located right on top of our kidneys. And this is where many stress chemicals come from. Adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, and hydrocortisone. Keeps us on alert, it reacts, causes the fight or flight. And then the prefrontal cortex assesses this threat. And it either releases more stress chemicals if that's what we need to do because the threat isn't gone, or the parasympathetic nervous system with our, and it makes us feel good. It calms us with hormones. Feel-good hormones, you can think of it as DOSE, an acronym for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, okay? This calms the body's response, but we're talking about prolonged stress, threat, danger, trauma. When this continues and we keep releasing more and more stress chemicals, eventually this release of stress chemicals all the time, signaling fear, swells the amygdala. It gets larger. This is damaging and kills brain cells. It becomes overactive. It keeps releasing these stress chemicals, and eventually the prefrontal cortex, which assesses this fear, it's our thinking, right? It eventually starts to shrink and get smaller and smaller, and you get less of the feel-good hormones. So there was a recent study of Vietnam vets, and they found out that longer the trauma, the smaller the hippocampus. It's a little organ that's shaped like a seahorse, kind of, and it consolidates short-term memories into long-term memories. And with this hippocampus shrinking near our cortex, it's impossible. It can become impossible to learn new information. So the amygdala swells, always in fear or stress or trauma, and releases those stress chemicals, and the prefrontal cortex has less and less activity and shrinks. It stops calming you down. We have problems with emotional regulation and having trouble making decisions, making poor choices. And instead of fight or flight, we begin to start fawn or freeze, not knowing what to do, not learning what to do in danger, even dissociate. So some of these symptoms that are being caused by this is constantly on high alert, which makes us not trust people, makes us depressed, anxious, isolate, makes our sleep patterns bad. Either we can't fall asleep or we keep waking up, or both, or sleep all the time, depressed. It causes digestive problems. One of the first signs of children being neglected or abused is headaches and stomach aches. And this will transpire into larger, bigger problems as adults. Many of my clients, most of my clients have migraine headaches or massive problems with their digestive system, even getting parts of their intestine removed, and ulcers and irritable bowel syndrome. Difficulty regulating emotions, and not being able to calm and soothe ourselves. It's very common to resort to addictions. We have massive pain. This can cause arthritis, like I said before, headaches, migraines. As a child, when this starts, if this starts in childhood, we have problems building and maintaining relationships in our adulthood, like we are now. It can cause massive problems with performance in school and work, and trouble connecting with family. It affects our attention span, our concentration, learning new information, memory. It causes immune system disorders. Many people suffering from this have those autoimmune deficiencies. And it really causes a poor threat detection. Can't detect fear, and actual threats. You're always in fear and don't have any good decision-making process going on. And it becomes very difficult to identify threats. I remember myself suffering from this stuff, looking back later, saying, oh my God, I can't believe I allowed myself to be in such dangerous situations, and I wasn't scared. I have clients now that do dangerous things with people they just met and stuff, and they're not scared. So what happens is, coming out of our childhood or coming out of a relationship, right? This is how we feel, and we begin a relationship. And if we're being neglected in childhood, we're going to find more people in adulthood that is familiar to us and neglects us. Narcissists, not giving anything of themselves to us, not meeting any emotional needs, maybe not even totally committing, won't be vulnerable. But this new relationship, because we all idealize, but my God, to us, this new relationship finally causes our feel-good hormones to rise. And it also calms and stresses our stress. Feels really good, really good. But they're neglectful, they're abusive, they're narcissists, or just toxic people. And these relationships are not stable. They go up and down, up and down, up and down. And it causes lots and lots of problems with the swelling and the shrinking of our organs again. This starts over. We become dependent on the relationship now for our hormones to rise. We don't like how it feels. We want to feel good, especially if we were discarded or the relationship just ended, failed, doesn't matter how. We never learned how to stop threat and danger. And we have tons of guilt and shame. And we decide to stay in toxic, abusive, neglectful relationships, hoping that they'll feel good again like they did in the beginning. We keep repeating this cycle over and over again until we stop. c-ptsd would be complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's another life coach on YouTube. He's really good. I won't say who it is, but he has renamed c-ptsd to cptsr. Complex post-traumatic stress response. And besides the fact that I don't feel that I can by any way change medical terms, but that doesn't really say the problem. Response is the problem, and our response to threat is not functioning properly. It's disordered, therefore it's a disorder. And a lot of this was deemed incurable. Years ago when I had this, and I looked it up, and I think it still says it, Google says that c-ptsd is not healable. It's now starting to be realized that it can be helped and treated. There is hope in healing from this, people. I want you to know that. This is the most important part of all of this. There is recent terms, neuroplasticity, where the brain forms new synaptic connections for learning, and neurogenesis, where growth and development of nervous tissue happens. Regenerating neurons, brain cells. These are all new finds and studies. Your trauma does not define you. Very important to understand, to accept, and to know that this isn't who you are now. If you don't like who you are now, if you don't like how you feel, try to understand that you decide who you are and who you become. We are not our trauma, we are what we do with it. Okay? Help is available. It is available for you guys. I have pretty good success with this. My clients do. Anybody interested, you can find me at daviddemars.com. But I encourage all of you, talk. This isn't something that we can do alone. I promise you that. Our brains don't trust. Our brains are frustrated and angry. Our brains want us to isolate, keep us safe. And it's the worst thing we can do. We need to fix all these problems, whether it's addictions, whether it's depression and anxiety and eating problems and sleep problems. And we must learn how to form and maintain good, healthy relationships. That is what happiness is. And without this, you won't be happy. You won't be happy. Happiness isn't safe. It's not about safety. We have to learn and we have to trust people again. But we've got to have the skills to maintain relationships with people. We must. It's the single most important thing to us. And without it, life can be meaningless, stagnant, no point, no direction, no growth. If you find yourself in these situations, please, I encourage you, ask for help. Okay, guys? I hope this video has been informative and interesting to you guys. And I hope, like I said in the beginning, that it helps alleviate some of the shame from these relationships, okay? Thank you. Let me know what you guys think. I really appreciate all your feedback and all your questions. And always love yourself first, guys. Bye-bye.